Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person. And get my glasses straight here, because today I want to talk to you about Fantasy Life for the Nintendo 3DS. And there's some stuff to say up front here. This is a game that was very highly recommended to me. I saw a little bit on it and I was like, it doesn't really seem like the kind of thing I'd really want to play that much, but, and it was also kind of hard to find, but I found a copy, I got it, whatever, because someone said it was, practically like their favorite game, and highly recommended it to me, said we could play multiplayer, so, me being me, I couldn't really say no to a pretty girl, so I did it, and, for you guys out there who want to have a shorter thing of this, because I'm sure the timestamp has already shown you, or whatever the length on the video. I think this is still called the timestamp. Yeah, you know how long this video is. It's probably going to be long because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Very long game. I spent like 180 hours playing it. So if you'd like to see something that's still kind of long, I guess, but probably going to be shorter for you, less time for you. And it's going to have more information. It's not going to be missing stuff because I'll probably miss shit left and right with all the stuff I have to talk about. You can check out the written review by going to the link in the description. You can do that before, after, or instead of this review because this is going to be long. That's going to take less of your time. But if you want to stick around to see some of the gameplay, and just click off and just listen to this like a podcast, whatever. The gameplay might take a while to get to actual playing stuff and whatever in the game, so this longer video will probably work for the amount of time that it's going to take to show you stuff anyways, but we'll see what happens with the video and everything. We're winging it. Another little detail is that in the game there are these things that are called, it's called a life, and a life refers to basically it's like a class, so you would... Anytime I'm saying class, usually it's like a life. Because that's what it would be like in most other RPGs or something, so... that's why I'm using the term. It's more common, and it's just going to slip out naturally. And the other thing is that if you hear paper going around, it's because I have this. My computer's fan is going off. I don't know why that is, so if you hear that in the background... Sorry. But yeah, I have the piece of paper to try and cover some of the stuff, to make it so I don't miss quite as much. But definitely check out that written one, because it's shorter. For you, and it's going to also, cover things that I'm probably going to miss here. Alright, with all that being said, if you're still here, I think it's time we just jump right into it. So, Fantasy Life is an action RPG, kind of almost like a hack and slash RPG, but I guess I would just call it an action RPG. Maybe just an RPG in general. It's kind of hard to describe. For the main plot, and the story is pretty important, so as is the case for a lot of RPGs, but here, the story's nice, it's not a filler throwaway thing, so the story, I don't want to spoil too much stuff for you. The basic plot idea is basically you start up the game, you create your character, early on you'll have to choose which class you are, and then you'll start going through there. You can switch those during the game, but you'll have to pick one to start with. And then you can start doing the story stuff, where basically you find this talking butterfly that's in a spot of trouble, and you decide to help the butterfly out, and then get tangled up in this weird snowballing series of events, ending up, that basically starts out with you somehow taking requests from the king to go and investigate these strange meteors that have been falling down from the sky, and are turning these creatures around them evil. It's some strange stuff. It's intriguing, and you have to just wonder, how did you get mixed up in all of this? What are you gonna do? Who is this talking butterfly? What's going on? And then the story will unfold as you go through it and find that out. That's as much as I'm gonna spoil for that. So that's in the beginning of the game. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. That's as much as I remember from years ago when I started it. It feels like. So a lot of the game focuses around these different classes that you can be. And I think I want to go through those first so you kind of understand a bit of what that means and how the gameplay can kind of be based on these classes. So there are basically 3 different types of classes, I would classify them as. Where there are combat classes, there are gathering classes, and there are creation classes. or crafting classes, whichever way you want to say it. So for the combat classes, you have like there's a paladin that does stuff, for the glory of the kingdom. They fight with swords and shields, a good amount of offense and defense. So that's a pretty good starting class to be. There's also the mercenary, which is similar, except they fight with great swords. The paladin fights with a long sword, I believe it is. Mercenaries fight with these huge great swords that do tons of damage, and they're focused on doing a lot of damage to their enemies. Very similar, a lot of mashing A to do their attacks and stuff, different variants of mashing A. They're very up close and personal fighters that can deal damage as well as take it, and the mercenary just kind of does what they please as far as their life choices are concerned. Then there is the hunter. Hunters tend to use the bow and arrow, so they can attack enemies from afar. They can switch between different kinds of arrows, like poison arrows or stun arrows, and they're a bit weaker, but they're distance fighters, so they have to be a little bit more smart about it. Wizards are similarly ranged. They use magic at a range, and they try to use the different effects and the elemental advantages of their different spell types in order to take down enemies as well as heal up themselves and allies. So those are the main combat classes. For the gathering classes, they're basically just they're actually three. There's the miner, which they just go around and mine ore deposits. That's really all they do. And then there's the woodcutter, which goes around and they chop down trees to get logs and nuts and other things. So that's all they really do. They're very simple, straightforward classes. And then there's the angler, which basically just catches fish, but there's a bit of a mini game with the angler where you have to, reel in the line, and when the fish struggles, it makes the tension of the line go up, so you have to try to relax the line so it doesn't break. And there's a thing of trying to get snagging the catch when you first get them to bite it. And there's just a bit of a mini game that goes along with that, so there's a bit more than just, basically the miner and woodcutter just kind of hit the things until the things they want are harvested. And then we have the creation classes. So there is the cook, which they use things like fish and meat and fruits, vegetables, all kinds of ingredients to just cook up a bunch of different dishes, which are usually used for doing things like healing and restoring your HP and your SP, which your SP is basically like MP in most games. I think it stands for stamina power, so it's not necessarily related to magic specifically, but it's kind of like an all-purpose MP bar. Then there's a tailor that can create, using fabrics and such, can create different articles of clothing, a few accessories here and there, and even make some custom cool clothes for that. There is a carpenter who's able to make things like furniture as the main thing. They make a lot of furniture and decorations, which you can put in your house and decorate your house with those, making that stuff out of wood primarily. There's the blacksmith, which uses the ores and turns those into ingots and uses that to make weapons and armor and some tools. And then there is the alchemist, who uses certain plants and other odds and ends to make potions and bombs and a few other odd accessories. And all of these characters, all of these classes, basically use the same mini game where you stand in front of this line of these three different spots, basically. So you just hit left and right to switch between the spots as you go. One spot will have you tapping the A button a bunch of times as fast as you can in order to fill up a meter. Once that's full, you move on to the next one. One of the spots is where you just hold down A until it fills up a meter. And then one of these spots is a rhythm kind of thing where a circle goes back and forth on this line with an A button in the center, and whenever the circle is directly over the A button, you have to hit the A button until the meter's full. And once you do that, there's sections of those, and on the bottom of the screen you get a preview of what's next in a certain number, a varying number of them. And as you complete those little sections, the bar at the top of the screen will start filling up, telling you how much, the percent done that your craft is. This is, of course, after you've already selected what craft you want to do, and provided you have those ingredients in order to do that craft in the first place. I mean, depending on how quickly you do it and how accurately you do it, because you can kind of mess some of that up, that'll determine the quality and sometimes the quantity of the items that you then create. And the only real difference here is that the tailor does not have one of the holding A sections. Instead, they have a secondary rhythm game, the rhythm section, except that the one is slightly faster than the other. And for all of them, sometimes they're swapped in different positions, and which ones are, which little mini part of this mini game is in what section, the left, the right, or the center. That's really all there is to that. It sounds like kind of a lot, but it's pretty simple, and once you get the hang of it, you can do it with pretty much everybody. That's basically what you do for the basics of those classes. Now, there's a bunch of stuff for you to do in the game as well. I guess I should actually explain a bit of the general gameplay too, is that you can go around doing really whatever you feel like. You can go around chopping down trees, mining stuff. You can go around just gathering materials off of the ground and everything. You can go on you can go around where you're just fighting a bunch of stuff, or maybe you just want to create a bunch of stuff. You can really just basically choose what you want to do. But you go around and you explore new areas. As the game progresses and the story progresses, you'll be doing more and more stuff. You'll have more and more areas you can go to, people to talk to, things to do. And as far as progression, there are multiple ways to actually progress your character for leveling up. There's the standard leveling up you can do, where basically, regardless if you're doing any of these, tasks like making something, gathering something, or if you're just off killing stuff, you get experience points. You get enough experience points, you level up. There's a level cap of 99 total. And every time you level up, you get so many points to distribute to your different stats, your base stats, which all cap at 50. And you can put it, there's strength, vitality, intelligence, focus, dexterity, and luck. And each one affects different, things in your performance, but each one also affects certain classes as well. So I believe, like, dexterity would work for, it improves the power of your bow skill, your dagger skill, but it also improves your sewing skills as well. So it's good for certain things like that. And skills are also a thing that you can level up. There are skills like, for instance, like I said, like a dagger skill is one where the more you use a dagger, the more your dagger skill will go up. A higher dagger skill means in general you will do more damage when using daggers, and certain daggers require you to have a certain level of dagger skill in order to use them, so you'll have more open to you. It also works with a lot of other things that you only get by being certain classes, like you only get something like, say, the greatsword skill once you become a mercenary, but you can switch your class at any time and be a different one, and as long as the person has the high enough skill to use it, and the weapon is not specific to a certain class, because some equipment is, you can take any class out with a greatsword and start hitting stuff with it, and it'll bring the skill up. But since it's really meant for the mercenary, the skill actually goes up faster if you're the mercenary. And the game will tell you in the game which, class that has the best, levels it up the fastest. It labels it as the best class or whatever, so best life in the game. Anyways, you do that, and also for something like as simple as running, which again is a mutual one that everyone puts up. Just by simply running, you can become better at it. All this stuff makes you better at this stuff. So, like, in the beginning of the game, you can run around, but you can only do it for so long because it depletes your SP gauge. And it depletes it pretty fast. But if you run around a lot and start upping the skill level of that dashing skill, then you'll be able to, then basically the bar depletes more slowly. So you can run around for longer periods of time without your bar going down as much, and you can refill it with having better stats makes it refill faster, and like for certain stats, and having items can replenish it anyways. So there's also those alternatives, but it always regenerates anyways, like most MP tends to do. So that's a thing. it's another part of the mechanics. So doing stuff that you want to do in the game, the more you do it, basically will up your skills and makes it easier to just keep doing the stuff that you've been doing. There's also some other stuff you can do as far as just questing stuff. I mean, obviously there's story quests. Then there are these things called bliss quests, where basically a lot of those are connected to the story as well. You'll be asked to focus on those frequently. But there are plenty of bliss quests that aren't part of the story that just kind of happen. Things like staying at certain inns around the world, or spending so many hours in the game, getting to certain level benchmarks. There's all kinds of things that can give you nice little bliss rewards, and you get bliss points for it. And once you up your bliss points enough, you can trade those in, and at certain benchmarks of those, you'll be able to get bliss bonuses. And there's a bunch of them out there, and you can select which ones you want. So you have some customization option there. And you can unlock, extra shops, or the ability to ride a horse around, or something that's just totally personal, and just unlock, a music player to hear the game's music whenever you want to. There's there's options, and you can do what you want with it. There's also other requests where you can just talk to people on the side, and they'll ask you to do stuff. Characters with little symbols over their heads, and they'll ask you to do all manner of things. Stuff like, maybe it's a simple fetch quest, get me this item, or maybe it'll be something like, go and defeat this mini of this creature, and you go do that, and then go back to them and get your reward, or, craft this, very extravagant craft that you can't normally, get. All kinds of stuff like that. It could be anything, and they use all the different kinds of lives to do that. All the different classes. Wow, I'm actually calling them lives. Wow, cool. And for doing those things, you typically will be rewarded in Dosh, which is the in-game currency, I guess, because gold is a material in the game, so they didn't really want to call it gold. Still kind of silly, but whatever. It makes sense that they did it. I guess talking is hard. And sometimes you'll get some extra materials as well, and they could be like nice rare materials that are kind of hard to get sometimes. That'd be cool. Or just other items. But you'll pretty much always, I think, you get some amount of Dosh, and you get experience for doing it, so you're kind of encouraged to do those things. You can accept up to 30 quests at any time. You can decline requests if you don't want to do them, and you can actually cancel requests if you want to make room for a different one if you have too many in there. And there's all kinds of stuff you can do, and you'll pretty much have to take advantage of the different classes in order to finish all of those. But if you're not really looking to do that, and you really just want to focus on, your like one main life, then you always have the option of just going and talking to your life master, which will give you some life quests. And basically these are things that only that class of character can do, and a lot of times you'll have to just be that class of character doing things in order to make them count. And by completing a bunch of these and then turning in those quests, you can get, I guess, stars, but basically just points towards ranking up your life rank, and you can go all the way up as high as a legend. And as you rank up, you can get some extra skills, some extra techniques. I guess it's not extra skills, it's called a special skill usually, where it somehow is a special thing that helps you do whatever it is you do. So, like, a fighting class would probably get a really nice, powerful attack, whereas a creation class usually gets, a thing that lets them do multiple tasks in a row without having to, press anything. It's kind of neat. So there's that kind of thing going on, and you also can talk to more NPCs with it, because when you select a class, basically, then you can talk to and have these little side stories. Each one has their own little side story as well. So you're talking to all these different characters, and there's already kind of a bit of development in all of the NPCs anyways, but there's also more if you're in a certain class. And then the more you rank up, the more extra things they'll say to you, and they'll give you more challenges or give you more just give you items or something, and certain things just open up to you through those, and you end up finding out more about a lot of these characters all over the game, because it works with characters from all over as well. They recognize you if they're in the same class as you. So that's a whole thing to do as well, to keep going. Even if you just want to focus on one life, you can keep doing it and just ranking up that one and doing all that stuff while you're there. So there's plenty for you to do, regardless if you want to do a lot or just a little, and none of it's really required. The basic story can be completed fairly easily without doing much grinding at all. So there's a lot of options, and that's more or less the game. Just going around, explore, do things, level up, doing the stuff you like, do the story when you want more story, and then I guess if you finish the story, you can just keep going around and doing more stuff you like until you're bored. And there's a lot of stuff to like about this game. I think like it's like visually it's nice. It's very colorful. It's vibrant, kind of cartoonish. The characters are almost like a chibi style, but not really. I don't know. Like I think it just looks pretty nice. And there's some performance issues when there's too much stuff going on the screen, but it doesn't happen too often. So don't worry too much about that. It's not a super powerful game, but it doesn't really have to be, I guess. I like that. I like that the characters are all have their own character. Like they're written and they have sometimes they actually say some genuinely funny things. I like that. I like that they're they're nice that they're actual characters, and not just like people who are super flat and boring, and they're not people who are just saying nothing, and they're not a waste of time to talk to them. Like kind of, yeah, but they're part of the world and they have character, and I think it's probably good to talk to them, because I don't remember talking to any character and being like why does this character even exist? Most of them have some kind of purpose, whether it's as simple as just being a weird character for some comedic relief, to some world building, to something that's actually related to events that have been going on in the game. It's all kinds of stuff. So that's I think the characters are done pretty well, and it's a good example of how you do NPCs. I like the cartoonish kind of look to everything, because it also gives it a bit of charm. Where it's like, oh, like I got the higher level of this thing, but it like also like looks like way different. Instead of just being like a better level of a weapon, it also like is a really cool looking weapon. I like that you can do all these different things, and like you don't have to fight anything in the game. That's really awesome too. It's like, oh, well, maybe you play the game, you're like, I'm sick of fighting people in all these RPGs. I just want to go in, like I'm gonna go do fishing, do some cooking or something. Maybe you just want to make a bunch of cool decorations and shit to decorate your house when you're a carpenter. Make some cool different like pieces of armor and everything, and custom gear so it makes your character look really nice. Be a nice tailor and make your own cool, colorful outfits and everything. Maybe that's what you want to do, and you can do it, and I think that's cool. And the more you do that stuff, the easier it becomes to do it. And at the same time, it also kind of invites you to do other things as well, where it's like, whenever you're putting stats into one of your things, like it kind of encourages the way that you would do other classes. Like say for instance, like say you're putting stat points into intelligence because you want to be a really good wizard, and like at the same time, intelligence also ups your alchemy skill. So while you're trying to build for a really nice wizard, you're also unintentionally actually building a character that would naturally also be good at being an alchemist. So maybe you want to try that out next, because it will be easier for you to do and progress some more when you're looking for something else to do. And that's kind of neat. And also there's sort of a bit of a circular playing in that. Also, like, say that you're a paladin like I was. You're a paladin and you're like, okay, I can go around killing stuff, this is awesome, but it'd be nice to have some better gear, right? So I've had like some better equipment. I can maybe survive better, and I could kill more enemies, more easily. So you want to go, and while you can buy a lot of stuff and you're not really forced to go do all the stuff yourself, some stuff for the really great quality things you have to go and do it yourself, so there is some incentive there, even though you can go and just buy materials and everything for more basic things you want to do, I guess. But like, I want to have some better gear, so maybe I should be a blacksmith, make some sweet armor, make some sweet sword and a shield, and then I'll be even stronger. And of course, the blacksmith is going to need some ores to work with in order to make this stuff. So it probably wouldn't kill me to also try to be a miner and get some of those ores, so I can do the smithing, so I can be a better paladin in the long run. And then you're just kind of circularly going through everything, and you're kind of building towards everything at the same time, and opening up more and more options the more you play and level up and grow. And I think that's really cool. How that all kind of works into itself. And so it's such an open experience where like you can do all this stuff and it's kind of encouraged to, but you also really don't have to, and you're able to enjoy the game the way you want to, and that's awesome. Even the randomness of a lot of it, like sometimes creatures only show up during the day or during the night. NPCs go to different places at night than they are in the day. There's even a time right before night when it's like sunset and everything has a weird like sunset type like orangish like tint to it, which is a nice little touch because it doesn't mean anything. It's not really a special time. I mean, nothing special happens during that time in the game as far as I know, but it's a nice little touch that they threw in there. And there's stuff like, trees, like the kind of trees that you can chop down and the ore deposits that are around, and a lot of the stuff you can pluck off the ground, like flowers and shit. All that stuff, like, has certain spots it has to go. There's only so many spots it can appear, but it doesn't always appear there. As it's like random where it's going to appear, if there's going to be a thing there or not, so it kind of changes every time you run around, and you might just come across something that you didn't expect to be there because it's never been there before. You may come back to an area to see the stuff is gone because you've already taken it out or something. It hasn't refreshed the resources and something. Like, it's just kind of nice experience, I guess. The overall experience of it feels really nice, and it's just kind of wonderful. And when you kind of just sit back and get into it, and I think it does a really good job with that and giving you options, being more simplistic and just laid back and just a thing you experience. It's a nice experience, I guess, is the point. The way it's been crafted, I get it, and I respect a lot of that. But I have issues with the game. I have issues because I played it like a completionist, almost. I didn't fully complete everything, but I tried to do a lot. I tried to get a lot of stuff in all the classes and everything. And I tried to reach the top rank, the legend rank, in every single class, and I figured once I did that, did all the other requests, and once I did all the life quests and stuff, I guess that's how you become legendary. All that, that's when I decided. I did that, and of course the main story. Once I did all those things, I decided, after that 180 hours, like, yeah, that's what I'm considering complete. When I get legend and everything, I complete the story, and finish all those other requests that I could find, and I did. And when you're doing that, you see the seams. You really start to see the downsides of this stuff. Now, obviously, there's one of the things is kind of just more of me, but I don't really play a lot of games for the story, and I like motivations, not so much story. And the story here is really good and compelling. Actually, is probably one of the best things about this game that really kept me going in the end. But the game got really tedious about mid to late game. Characters just love to hear themselves talk, and it was like I would get to a new area, and I would want to explore the area, and that's when the characters decided they wanted to say 500 pages of dialogue. And then, of course, all the quests inside, the life quests and stuff, there's always talking to those characters. And after a while, I just stopped giving a shit what they had to say, because I just wanted to, hurry up and, shut the fuck up, I want to finish my quests, and I got really impatient with that, and it's just wore my patience real thin. And also, a lot of the magic is gone when you try to do that, because, try to be a completionist on it, because you see the seams. You see, okay, well, all of these creation classes have the same fucking mini-game, and yeah, they all require different materials, but it's all of them are just get these materials to make this thing, and just do this mini-game, and there's your thing. It's just different materials, same shit, different materials, and I guess you can make different items. And even within each of these things, just making them, it's okay, well, I need this ore to make this kind of ingot, and then this kind of, ingot makes, this kind of weapon or armor or whatever. And then this kind of ore is a grade better. So that's going to make a better ingot, and going to make a grade better of the same fucking weapon or armor or whatever. And it feels like a lot of number scaling, and that sucks because that takes a lot of the magic and the fun out of it. And having with the enemies too. A lot of the enemies are just doing the classic palette swap, and they bring their stats up, of course, but they're really just control about the same. So it's like just fight the same enemy that looks slightly different and has a different name, but it's the same. It's the same design. It does the same attacks. You know how to fight it already. It's just that it has higher numbers. Are your numbers high enough to match it at this point? Go find out. And that's fine, I'd let that slide for little enemies, but like when you have these big boss enemies, and these really tough ones that are supposed to be the biggest, toughest enemies in the game, and these enemies are just, palette swapped. It's like, are you fucking kidding? You couldn't make some more unique enemies for the big bad enemies? That's kind of sad. And like you already kind of know basically how to fight it. The only thing is that some of those enemies have different elements. So their attacks, whatever their elemental attacks are slightly different. So for instance, like, there was a dragon I fought that shot fire out of its mouth. And like, that would hurt. Then there was also a dragon I fought that would shoot electricity out of its mouth. And that had it wasn't a solid wall of electricity. It was a lot of different electrical balls. And the electricity would have kind of paralyzed me and make me stop my tracks every few seconds for a bit. Also, they have this weird attack where it rains down stuff from the sky, and some of them have stuff where it happens close to them, and sometimes it happens further away. I don't know, but I'm not here to spoil big boss fights for you. All I'm saying is that it's sad that they couldn't do a better job with that, and that it just ended up feeling, again, it fell back on these old RPG things, these old RPG tropes. And when the game first started out, I thought it was going to be this wonderful experience of all this new and different stuff to do that was going to break away from the norm. And then it just fell back into the stuff that I thought it was better than. And it isn't. It apparently isn't. And that's, I think, maybe the saddest thing for me is that it really, with all that stuff, it ended up becoming basically, at the end of it, I guess, to sum that up, and the grand disappointment of it all is how it fell back on that and everything. I guess also comes down to this main point of, how do I want to put this, that this game has a lot of playtime to it. You can play this game for a really fucking long time. There's a lot to play. And if this is the only game you get, great. You'll play it a lot, probably, because it's the only fucking game you have for a long time. But it doesn't have any replay value because there's so much shit for you to do that by the time you finish all of it, you won't want to do it again for quite a long time, because it becomes very long and tedious and uninspired near the end. I think that's how I would sum up that grand disappointment that I had in it. It's at this point I just wanted to start showing the box. I had a couple other things I wanted to mention. So there's there's multiplayer. I played a little bit of it, not enough to really review it, but it does have multiplayer. My lighting sucks here, but whatever. You deal. It looks like this. It's basically you go into multiplayer and there didn't seem to be much to really do. It was just kind of you were both in the same world, and you could basically just do things independently, and there wasn't much you could do to directly interact with each other in a way that would impact each other's experience. The only thing you could really do for that is to both try to fight the same big monsters. That's about it. Other than that, there's not much point, in being in the same game. You might as well just, be sitting next to your friend or Skype calling them or something and talking about the game while you're both playing separately, unless you're actually going to do something together in it, there's not a whole lot of reason to actually play together. Then there's also this thing I wanted to mention with, it's AC in the menu, it's called add-on content, which is basically, I looked it up what it was, and it was a lot of stuff where you get this whole new area, there's new story quests, new life quests, along with new life ranks, the new side quests, there are new items, new enemies, there are some new character creation things, and there's a weird ally system, where your allies, you can rank up the friendship between them, I think. So like a new thing to level up there. Level cap moves up to 200. Your skills have the cap moved to 20. Your stats have the cap moved to, I believe, 100. Did I say there's more character creation stuff? I think there's more character customization stuff in that as well. As far as I know, that's all the stuff. Maybe there's more. I don't know. It's a lot of stuff. Apparently, only costs $8. And there's a few things that are rough about that. The one thing is that it's not really DLC, which is why it's called add-on content. But it's not really add-on content. It's DL key. It's basically you're paying money to download a key to unlock content that's already finished and on the game. It's on your cartridge. It was out day one, and instead of just being something you had to actually download because they didn't have it in time for production, it's something you just have to pay to use, even though you've already paid for the thing it's fucking on. It's already fucking there. Why don't you just have it? That sucks. That's stupid. But that's DL key for you. But as shitty as that business practice is, if you really love this game, you might as well get it and get another 2/3 to practically doubling your experience, because like that's a lot of stuff to do. And if you didn't find it to be a horrible, tedious mess like I did, you might want to get it. I didn't get it. I don't believe it's refundable, and I'm certainly not keeping this game, so that's why I didn't get it. The things to be aware of with that also are people who have the DL key cannot play with players who do not have the DL key. I think you can turn it on and off in the menu. I don't know how that affects your saves or how that really works, so I can't really speak for it or the content, but those are just my 2 cents on the whole matter. The only silver lining to it is that it's not that big to download because you're just downloading a key to play what's already on your game, I guess. The other thing is that I heard they were working on a Fantasy Life 2. They said it's supposed to release this year, 2016. Fantasy Life 2, there's some subtitle on it as well. But it's only going to be on mobile devices, which I think is stupid because, I don't want to be a dick, but it's like anyone who played the first one played it on 3DS, which is, I believe, the only place you can get it, unless it's on mobile devices, and then this doesn't, then this is wrong. As far as I know, it's only on 3DS. The thing is, anyone who's looking at it who hasn't played the first one, especially when we're talking about an RPG, if the story is, following it, they're not going to want to buy something with a 2 in the title. So there's also anyone who has this might not necessarily want to buy the mobile one because, they have a 3DS. They might want to play stuff on that rather than a mobile device. That might be part of the point. It's not necessarily an overlapping crowd. I don't know. I just think that's weird. Maybe just drop the 2 and just keep the subtitle, and then you'll fix your whole advertising problem. It's not really going to make it that much better of a thing if the story stuff is still a problem, but whatever. At least it'd make more sense. That's all I really had to say about that. And this game is I got it for about $30 because of my discount and shit. But this is one I gotta say that honestly, I'd probably recommend getting it for $20 or less. I had trouble finding it even, so good luck with that. But $20 or less is what I would say for most people because a lot of playtime, but it'll get tedious near the end. And again, not much replayability unless you don't play it for a few years and then I'll play that again, or just take a super long time playing it on very, very small increments. I don't know. If you're really, really into the idea of it and want to play it, maybe 25, but that's the most I could recommend is if you're really into the idea and like what you've heard and what you've seen. And the other thing is that if you're super into it, of course, then you probably want to get the DL key just because there's going to be a lot more for you to do. But do not get that before playing through the main game because none of it really matters. Almost all of it is post-main game. So just finish the main story first and then get it. And that's probably the way you want to do it because if you're still liking it by then, and then you're not going to be out anything if you end up not liking the game and want to sell it. So that's basically where we're at with that, and that's basically Fantasy Life in a nutshell. I probably should have waited and talked about all that other stuff before I pulled it away because this review has been really long, but I'm sorry again. You can check out the written review to see if I missed anything. It's down in the comments. It's a written review. And I'm talking really loud because the phone rang. I don't know if you could hear that, but the phone rang, and I just didn't want anybody to hear, like, you know, the phone going off. I could edit this. I could edit this and be like, that didn't happen. It's a weird jump cut. But I'm not going to do it because I'm already on a roll. It's already long. If you guys are here, you are here for the long haul, and you're going to hear all of it. So, basically, yeah, it's a nice thing for an RPG when it comes down to it. Really, it's something that's not your standard RPG. It has some charm to pull it through. The story is nice. You might actually get attached to the characters. And it's got enough going for it where it's at least worth checking out, if nothing else. But it's not one of my favorites. And I've played better RPGs. I've played better 3DS games. I mean, ultimately, I think this is just, you know, this is just something that I don't even have a wrap up for that. Just basically, if you're gonna play this, if nothing else, if you're gonna play this game, just enjoy it. Don't be a completionist about it. Just let it happen. Just play the game and do what you like in it until you're not enjoying that stuff anymore. Move on to something else. And, you know, just don't play this game to death like me, because then you'll never want to play it again, and you will have ruined what could have been a relaxing, fun experience that's not terribly deep, but it's just there to help you kind of get into it, to relax, and to just slip away into a different life, a fantasy life. There, I brought it around. And, you know, let's just see how fantastic the booklet is, you know, because, you know, maybe they got some cool stuff, because, you know, really, I mean, look at this, you know, how often is it nowadays that you see a video game come out and there's an instruction booklet? You almost never see these anymore, you know, because games, I don't know why, they just stopped making instruction booklets. So, you know, it's always nice to see games that have them, and this one doesn't. The fuck? This is a fucking poster. As a bonus clip, here we've got all of the trophies, and this is my level is 86. My character's my awesome shiz as that. My stats. More stats. Yeah, that's the stuff I have. And that's the thing. And licenses, look at this. Legend. Indicated by the crown. So I fucking did it.